Hello, welcome to Act 2, Episode 5 with Sam and Carly.
Right, well, let's start off with explaining away this one. Carly, what happened last night?
We had our photo shoot last night for 222, so for all the advertising, and then we thought that we would have a little bit of cast bonding afterwards, didn't we? So
I drove, so I'm fine.
I think I bonded a bit too well with some red wine. And so I'm not quite so fine.
She's actually looking very peaky because at about 12:30 last night she was dancing in the street to no music. So, you know, as you do.
Yeah.
So we're going to go easy on
the whole world's a stage, people.
I love it. So we're going to continue on from our discussion last week about characters. We talked about how we build a character, but we're going to go a little bit more in depth this week and relate it directly to 222 and just delve a little deeper into our literal process. We can't actually show you the script on here or do any of the lines from the script because of copyright purposes, which is quite frustrating. So that leads me to the first question: is what comes first for you specifically? What the character wants, or who is she?
Oh God,
heavy.
That is
for this time of the morning
on a hangover. What does she want, or who is she?
Would you like me to start?
Yeah, okay. You start while I
while you have a little
ponder on that. while I have a little nap, wake me up. Yeah, right, go.
Okay, I'm going to start because I know I start with who they are. So I will think about the job she does, the relationship she has with her family, friends, the characters in the play, her literal personality. You know, what are her nuances? What are her, it's a very broad and general question for a first read, but just to try and pick up little snippets of her personality, and I start building from there. But yeah, who she is comes first for me.
I think probably does with me listening to you say that in terms of understanding the backstory of her. But I think the wants probably come quicker for me in terms of, I think they could possibly tie in with who she is. Right, do you know what I mean? In terms of, like who she is, her backstory impacts possibly the things that she wants. Yeah. Okay. But I do think that comes in more detail later because it's almost scene by scene, moment by moment. What does she want now? What does you know? But yeah, definitely. For me, the thing that creates that character is finding out their backstory. Who is she?
What makes her tick? That sort of
thing. So, Sam, you were talking about your method training.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering do you use that approach every time you get into character, as in those different stages that you said that come under the umbrella of method acting? Mm-hmm. Would you say that you go through all of those every time you get into character? Or are there specific things that you tend to lean on?
A few times when I haven't, like certain plays when it just hasn't felt right, hasn't been like Puente of Ahuna. He wanted something very two-dimensional, as you said before, and just very no depth. Couldn't ask what her motivation was, anything like that. So I kept that one sort of on a surface, or just on a certain level. But every other character I've had to think about. All the things I listed, all relationships and circumstances. Some things you have to use your imagination, like for example, Borley Rectory. I've never given birth before, so I had to speak to people, get their experiences, and then use my imagination, but also, dig deep for the right emotions. But yeah, I would say I do use it, but I'm not very methodical with it. I wouldn't write them out like objective, obstacle, circumstance, relationship, imagination, listening. I wouldn't then go through and mark it anywhere, but they are all the questions that
kind of pop up into your thought process throughout trying to find that character.
So for example, Joan Crawford was quite an obvious one. I mean, what does she want? I mean, the overall want of her life was to be adored and to be seen as
the best,
in every respect she could. It wasn't enough that she was considered the most beautiful woman in the world or one of. She needed that from day one till the end. she didn't get it. It
Yeah.
destroyed her.
Yeah.
And she wanted to be the best actress, and so that was her overall want. But I found it quite difficult to break down the smaller ones per scene and per monologue, because they were it was storytelling. So although the same want is there, she wants to impress, she wants to tell about the male, conquers that she conquers.
Conquests.
The conquers from a tree.
She conquered the male.
She had all the conquers.
She did have a lot of conquers.
It didn't apply as strongly as when you've got a play where there's more back and forth, and you want something from that character. It's more obvious and more.
So you use them to different degrees then?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Depending on the character or the type of play, you use those method training elements to different degrees.
Yes. But for me, method acting, people always assume that means when you turn up on set or at the theatre, you're in character. And that's what method acting is. You just stay in character, and
you take it home with you.
Yeah, and you can be a bit of a diva with it, or you can be a bit of a wanker with it. For me, that's not method acting. Method acting is, I think, for me, it's sitting on the emotion, finding the emotion, whether that's through any of your five senses. You might have a certain smell that takes you back to a memory, which makes you feel a certain way. Big one for me is songs, that especially if I've got a teary scene.
The thing is, that song could be heard again for a different character if you wanted that same emotion. So it's actually, the songs are associated with emotions for you rather than characters.
Yeah. And that is specifically crying.
Yeah.
But what the type of crying is also branches off into different music.
Yeah.
But for something else, I might use the taste of something. Like, I'm a big black coffee drinker now, but for example, before I used to drink black coffee, the smell and the sight and the taste of it used to always take me back to my childhood when I used to have a tutor. I hated it. But that's also quite useful. It's not anymore because it doesn't take me back there. But they're the sort of elements that I'm talking about, something that touches on your senses, that can take you back to an emotion. And with Betty and Joan, because we were on stage the whole play, like both halves. So for the crying scene, for example, in the interval, I'd listen to my music, I'd bring myself up to just the point of being tearful, and then somehow sit on it, and you just push it back down. And when you go out there, I had a very light-hearted part of the scene first. When I feel that bit coming, because it's just there bubbling under the surface, you can just say one little trigger line, one little musical
from the
note,
song,
and it brings it back. And that's worked, I would say, 99% of the time. If you're that certain and sure about it.
Yeah.
And so
that's like a form of anchoring, actually.
Is it?
Yeah. So, because anchoring can be used in positive ways, but
Give me an example.
So,
therapy here.
This is a little bit of therapy. So, for instance, I used anchoring to get through my counselling exam, actually, because I was very nervous about it. And so with that, it was a physical touch. But what I did is plant the physical touch with a phrase. And so I'd anchored that phrase in. The phrase was that, I'm confident, I know what I'm talking about, I am good enough to pass this exam.
So what's the physical touch?
The physical, I chose to do this. So so you can choose whatever. Some people do this, some people might touch it, whatever it is. But so anchors are, like you said, so that was the touch sense. But it could be a smell, it could be a song, it could be
really
related then. And what you can do with it is that you anchor it in. So you set the anchor several times. So in that situation, I needed to feel the phrase that I was saying to get through the exam. I had to believe it. So I would say to myself, when I was calm, when I was feeling confident, when I was in a really good headspace, I would say that phrase, really believing it. And when it got to that point, the pinnacle point of feeling it, I'd anchor. So I'd then do this. And it locks it in. Wow. So then you do that several times on several different days over time. So then what happens when you're in the place that you need to, and you do that, it takes you to that feeling of, I've got this, I'm in control.
Do you use that for acting?
No, never have. But you saying that has made me go, yeah, it's a form of anchoring.
This is what this is all about, acting.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take some of that, and you take some of that.
So because I don't find a character that way.
So talk me through what you do.
So
we know because we discussed last week. So you read your lines.
Read the lines.
That's sort of phase one.
Phase one is just hearing it out loud, so that I attach myself to her. And then I read and I reread and I reread. Like I read the character. Yeah. Well, and the scene, depending on it, because so for instance, in Betty and Joan, there were a lot of big monologues, so I would just read. I didn't need to read so much of Joan's, but in a play, perhaps when you're going backwards and forwards, yes, I probably would read it to find the scene, to find out what's going on, how is she feeling. But then look at whether is what's in there that can form her backstory. And if there isn't anything in there, I have to find a backstory. I have to find who that person is. Does that make sense?
Is a big deal.
Just who they are, because
Betty, I suppose, was quite easy because there's actual history that you can read up on.
Yeah. So for that, I watched a lot of her. I watched a lot of documentaries with Betty. I watched Betty in films, but more documentaries because I wanted to see her, and that wasn't to mimic her. It wasn't to watch, like to try and find how she spoke.
Did you not mimic her in some ways?
Yeah, what I mean is I wasn't watching it to so I could study her to mimic her. Right. I was watching it to find her as a person, the essence of Betty, like, and I, through watching it, I was then like, she's feisty. I was like, she's a feisty, she's strong, she's strong-willed, opinionated, and so I was finding her, and that's what I mean. I think through reading it and rereading it, I find them to form that backstory, to find out why they're like that, and if I can't find it in the script, I kind of find it myself.
And was you taught that when you were training, or is this a method you've developed?
Well, yeah, because my training is very limited.
You did it for A-level.
I did do it for A-level,
more than a lot of people.
But I didn't go to drama school, and so I think it's come from it. Yeah, it started. We touched on Stanislavski and things like that when I was studying, but I think really it's come from watching actors. I've learnt through other actors that I've been on stage with, but all like actors in films and actors that I have
look them up and find out what their process is.
Yeah, so Johnny Depp was a massive. I just remember just being so wowed by his characterizations. Just loved his and was like, God, that was my dream. Was like, if I could have one day's workshop with Johnny Depp.
Oh, really?
Because I thought he was.
Listening?
I'm still available, Johnny. I'm learning all the time. I'd still happily have you teach me. So and so I think I just something that he said that I really related to in some documentary that he'd said was that he doesn't want the character to be like him. He has to find a difference, and that really resonates with me.
The truth in it as well.
Always find the truth.
Yeah, but that's the contradiction. Like, this person is not like me. How do I play it truthfully? That's the.
But for me, it's but it's never to feel me. If I feel me, if I'm aware of me, I'm like, you haven't found her, and that I don't like that. If I can still feel Carly, I'm like, something's not right. You're not Carly. So it comes more from an escape from me into another character. Does that make sense? I don't know if I've answered that very well.
No, I think you have. Yeah. I like breaking down a scene where the emotion is clear. Say for example, this is an angry scene. Okay, so she's angry. So you don't play the anger. You don't play angry. You find, again, whether it's the five senses. What do you feel when you're angry? What are you trying to get out of this? What's stopping you get what you want? How does that make you feel? Never answer angry. Just feel the actual. Right. What does your body feel like when you're angry? Well, I can sometimes get a bit shaky when I'm angry. Sometimes get a bit like stuck my breath, and I can be quite emotional when I'm really gone, you know. And so that's another thing that I do. If there's a big emotion, I can.
Would you then say to yourself, but where does she feel it? So, because so listening to you then, again, it's so funny how the kind of acting, finding the character is making me think of things in my counselling sessions. I will often say to my clients, what are you feeling, and where do you feel that? Where does that affect you? Because it's different. Some people can feel it in their stomach, some people feel it in their chest, some people do feel it in their head. Some people, different emotions affect different people in different places.
I feel it in my left earlobe.
Yeah, no, yeah, my big toe.
Yeah, my knee sort of how does that help? I mean,
because I think you're attaching a physical, like in terms of the acting, that you're attaching a physical response to an emotional response, which when you're acting, you've got, you can't just feel angry and not display it. You've got to show it through your face, through your body language, through your voice, how that changes. So I think it's really important as an actor to know where I'm feeling that.
Where you're feeling it.
But that question should almost be asked, and possibly would have a different answer with every different character. Because when that character that we played was angry,
she might not get shaky.
Yeah,
she might get solid,
or she might cry. Like some people. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that is how when I'm like, how is she feeling? She's feeling this, and what does that look like for her? Because it isn't as simple as, to me, that's just two-dimensional. Like, what is she feeling? She's feeling angry. It's then you have to go deep with that, and what does that anger look like from this character's perspective? In the same way that anger in me is going to be different to anger in you, which means if we're playing different characters, it has to be different every time. And there might be similarities, there might be crossovers. We might have played characters that her anger is similar to that character's anger.
You might have a vocal, shouty, screamy, smashy, grabby anger, and then you might have a sulky, silent, and finding the truth in that as well is the key, because we can all play those emotions, but how do you explain finding the truth? It's quite...
I was wondering how you were going to do that,
because the genuineness of it, to find the...
I personally come back to, and I don't know whether this is right, but it comes back to me as a feeling. If you're playing it and not feeling it, then it's not the truth.
Things go hand in hand, like you're just saying about what does that look like. Well, I've been watching a lot of the Behaviour Channel. Shout out to the Behaviour Channel YouTube channel. So one of them's an actor. There's 4 men, and they all study behaviour, and one of them is an actor. So that's why I originally started watching it. And they'll study these videos mainly of interrogations, and people give stuff away on their face, and it might be a micro expression, but you, as a viewer, you know what they're feeling, and you don't know how they know, because something's going on, and it could be so subtle. But I think it's just as important to marry the two.
Yeah.
What does it look like? Because if you're on stage, you have to be bigger.
Oh, you have. Yeah, no, you are right. You do. Yeah.
You could do a micro expression on film. You can't on stage, really. I mean...
But what I mean is, you could walk on stage and I could say to you, right, say these lines, and I want you to say it really angrily. And you could come across, and so the two-dimensional view of that would be, blah, 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 blah. And then, but if I said to you, right, come back on, and I want you to feel that anger. I want you to show me that you are feeling that anger. That would look more than just, there'd be slight, like you say, slight little nuances that would happen in your face, in your voice, in your physicality, that because you're coming from a place of truth. You're not going, I'm angry. I'm happy.
Really good. Oh my God,
thanks, I know.
Right, so we would like to do an improvised scene. We would like you to come up with the idea, though.
Send you ideas in, whatever you like, and we'll see.
And we will improvise a short scene, just sitting here and having a chat, and we will show you how we do our thing.